maybe. And we're going to get there, and I'm going to have to cut off a whole heap at the start, as I always do. And there's the giggle. Hi. Welcome. This is Intune training.
See, it's not as easy as you think. Hello and welcome to another installment of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune. This is the Steve and Adam Show. Hello, I'm Adam.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Pretty good, mate. Yourself?
Oh, pretty good. So Steve, I think we've been doing some pretty cool stuff of getting some good feedback on our training that we've been putting out. And so far, we've got Intune tenant set up, and we've deployed a Windows Store for Business app, and we've done some BitLocker and other configuration item policies. And so today, we're going to be looking at Win32 applications. This is the, I remember the day that this got announced in Intune. This was such a huge win for Intune because it allows companies to move from using just the store apps that were previously only the only thing available in Intune for the most part to.
It was the single file MSI that was available as well. So the line of business application, but I 100% agree. When this got announced and got released and Microsoft turned around and went, oh, we're going to do Win32 apps, everybody went, it's going to be viable now. Intune is going to be a viable replacement for SCCM for the cloud-based solution. This was the huge thing that the community was waiting for. This was around the fact that not everybody is sitting there and running that single file MSI. And it was such a great announcement, and it still is one of the best things that's come out of the product.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to see this because, like, I agree. I mean, I've seen an uptick in Intune usage, just within seeing the social media and things, and seeing the blogs that have come out about this. This is definitely a big win for Intune for sure. So let's get into it. Show us how to do this.
Cool. So let's jump into it. So obviously, here's my VM that we've created. It's all been done through Autopilot and everything associated around that. So we'll just quickly close that out. And we're going to start off by going to getting our application. So the first application that we're going to use is Microsoft Math. So if anybody's done the hands-on labs at Microsoft Training or Ignite or MMS when it was back with Microsoft, we always had to deploy Microsoft Math, so I figured I'll do an homage to that. Microsoft Math.
Is the international version called Microsoft Maths with an S?
Maybe. Maybe, I don't know. It's a plural version of it because it's actually Microsoft Mathematics.
Fancy.
Yes. So we'll quickly download that. Part of the reason why we use this application is because it's so small, and also in a hands-on lab environment, it's free. Licensing is not an issue. So we'll just quickly save that. And while we're on the internet, we'll just go to GitHub, and we're going to grab search for the Microsoft Intune Content Prep tool. So this tool is the application that we utilize to create the Win32 Intune Win file, which we'll explain a little bit more shortly. But we'll just start off downloading the content that we need. And we'll just download that.
And so, Stephen, this is basically an open source, or I mean, at least shared through GitHub project that's put out by Microsoft to manage the Win32 apps. This isn't just because it's on GitHub, this isn't a third-party repo, right?
That's correct. So it is definitely a Microsoft repo. You can see here in the address bar we're using. It's from Microsoft, and this is fully Microsoft's only recommended way to upload the files. So now if we go to our downloads, we'll see here we have, hasn't downloaded that because I need to hit the save button. Make sure you hit the save button. Just a note to the newcomers.
This is good. Good basic training. I like this.
That's right.
How to use your computer 101.
That's right. So we're going to go to an admin command prompt. The reason why we'll go to an admin command prompt is because it just is easier for what we're going to be using. So we'll go to users and Steve. All right, so now if I do a list, we need to go to downloads, if I can spell right, and you'll see here we have the two applications. So we're going to quickly extract the MS or math setup. If my tab will work, because I can't remember the command line that I need to use, we need to do /C for extract and /T for path. So the reason why we're going to extract this is because it's going to give us, nope, it's not going to allow me to do that. It's going to give us the content inside the directory, because right now the content inside the directory is actually an MSI. So if we see inside there, we have an MSI, we have setup application and everything associated around that. It also has the VC++ redistributable as required, as well as DX setup or DX setup. That's for older graphics machines. So we've now got our extracted file, and we're going to click OK on there. So the next step is to go to, well, let's go to, let's run the setup exe data. The reason why we're going to quickly run through this is have a look at what our silent command lines are, because much like what we do with SCCM, when we're deploying from Intune, we want to make sure that it silently installs. And it's decided to not pop up the setup.exe/, so we'll just assume that we just use the MSI. All right, so while we're here, we're going to go to Intune Win App Util, and you'll see that we get this nice little question around wrapping Windows Classic applications. What we need to do is say our source folder or content folder, our setup file, and the location where we want it to export to. So this is a nice easy one. We're just going to go Intune. We're going to go, our source folder is C:/data. Our source setup file is going to be MSI math. How good is it that we can now copy and paste into a command line now?
Pretty much the best thing ever.
And we're going to put that into C. Users. Yep. And we just hit enter on that. Now I'll take up the whole screen, and it's going to sit there with the progress bar down the bottom, telling you that it's processing and sending all those files there. If we now do a list directory, for some reason data wants to be on the top. If we go list store, you'll see here that we now have that Intune Win file there. We now head across to Intune, so portal.azure.com. As you'll see, I use portal.azure while Adam uses the device management admin console. They both do exactly the same thing. I'm more used to using the Azure portal, but if you're just doing device management, DMAC will do everything you need.
Absolutely.
So that out.
And if you are using Config Manager like I am and looking at desktop analytics, the device management is the only way to get to that as well for the Intune portal. So at least currently, I don't know if they have plans to move that into the Intune or to the nested one inside of the Azure portal.
Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest. And at the end of the day, as long as you can get to the portal, it doesn't really matter. So we're now going to select the Intune Blade in portal, and it will eventually load up. And we're just waiting for that to load. While that loads, we'll just talk through what we're going to be seeing in this UI. which is around the ability to upload the client applications.
So, I mean, I guess it's. Can you talk through what the file is that we created? I mean, it looks like it's basically some sort of proprietary zip file, essentially, just a cab file that Intune recognizes of that content, or do we know?
Yeah, so what's in the actual file itself, while this is loading, we'll actually go on a little bit of an exploration of the file. If my computer will catch up.
Oh, look, now it's your internet that's having trouble, not mine. I even rebooted my router ahead of time. If only we were doing my computer.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's all good. We'll get there.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. We're okay with waiting.
We are. I think it must be trying to do updates, as I haven't had this computer on in a while.
Only there was a way to manage those things.
Exactly. Maybe I just need a bigger laptop.
Oh, maybe. I've got one you can borrow.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, I mean, while we're waiting on things, I'll just keep asking random questions.
Please do.
So, I would. It seems as if this is a generic wrapper, even that it's not. Unlike some of the other stuff that we've had to do within Intune, especially if you're writing scripts and things, you have to point it to your tenant. You have to point your, you have to be able to authenticate and all those sorts of things. And so this appears to be just a proprietary encapsulated thing that you just put your content in and did a thing. Now, if you had customized your MSI or put a transform on it or something like that, I would imagine that it would, that would be more custom for someone. But seems like, and maybe vendors are already doing this. I wonder if that vendors could just do this for you in advance and say, here's our content in this bundle. Now, I guess it would prevent you from customizing it, but I guess they could deliver it that way. Have you seen that from anyone yet?
I haven't seen that yet, no, but that is very much the possibility that could happen there. So the actual Intune Win file itself, what I'll quickly do is, I think I can open up zip in here. Let's do it this way. Let's take a copy of it, paste, I'll pop this back up. So the Intune Win file itself contains a meta file that explains how the file is encrypted, as well as another copy of the actual Intune Win file itself, which is the one that gets copied up to Azure. So if we go here and we extract this, and we go inside there, and you can see that we now have the Intune Win package. Content is another Intune Win file, but if we go to the meta, this will actually show us the detection method, and I believe it has encryption keys that are required to send it up to the tenant. And there's the file digest. Where is it? MAC key, encryption key. This is the MSI that we're going to call, and it includes a whole heap of stuff around describing what that MSI itself is. So if you set the setup file here as an MSI, Microsoft will automatically go in there and grab all the information about that MSI and publish it in here. So it allows for the detection methods and all of that for you. So
now, if you excuse me, if you had a transform in the folder with the content, would it have already joined or put the transform in there as listed as a transform in that file, or is it just available in the console to push in your command line?
It's just available at the console to push into the command line. Okay,
I see. I like how I don't know if you've ever done this, but we've used the same method you just used to just rename it to .zip. We've used that for debugging corrupt Excel documents, Word documents, and things like that. I love how it's just a zip file.
That's correct.
It's kind of cool.
What I might do, if I can get it to load on my other computer, I'm just going to quickly change what I'm sharing, Adam, because for some reason I'm having an issue with that session.
It's all good.
Just bear with me. I just need to transfer that file from one computer to another. While that goes through, I'll just quickly go into Client Applications, which is where we're going to publish the application to. And it'll eventually load up. So then we go here to Applications, and in that Applications folder, so in that Applications folder, you'll see here that we have the Store for Business applications that we've previously loaded in, as well as the Office 365 Demos Pro Plus suite for Windows 10. So now if we hit Add, and just quickly pause around. Oh, it's still sharing. And if I go to, sorry about this, it's very much. All right, so now if we're just going to select our application type here, and we're going to select a Windows app of Win32. From here, you'll see that it needs to be, it gives you all the information about it. And when we go to the app package file, we're now going to browse to see podcast 7, and there's our Intune Win file itself. We click OK on that, and the next tab is where we can describe that applications. So we can call it Microsoft Mathematics, or let's just call it Maths. Nice. You need to put a description field in here. As you can see, it's denoted with that asterisk. So correctly, and the publisher is Microsoft. We're going to make it a featured app because we like it. It's fun. And here's where you put your logo, but we don't have a logo, and I'm not going to go spelunking for one. You'll see here we're going to use a standard MSI installer string. This is auto-detected by as a result of that MSI being referenced as the setup file for the application. If you'd put an executable there, it would just have the executable name, and that's it. No uninstall strings or anything associated. So this is where,
before you proceed then, so then this would be also if we had a transform or anything. So essentially, I would imagine that whatever you had in your folder structure or any of the any files or anything that was included in that you would just reference them here, just like you would when you're building out your command line in Config Manager or something along those lines.
100%. And that's exactly how you'd pick it up. You can put whatever command you want in here. So say, for example, you're using a PowerShell script as your wrapper. You can put that in there as in PowerShell.exe/invoke script, and it'll go and call that for you. So we'll click OK to that. From a requirements point of view, we need to select that it's a 64-bit application, and it needs to be Windows 10 1809 or higher. The reason why we've gone that is because, well, everybody should be doing 64. If you're doing 32, you need to question what you're doing, or look at your applications that are requiring you to run 32-bit. And the minimum version is 1809 because I don't know if my computer's 1903 yet. From a detection rules point of view, we're going to detect on the MSI, and we're going to use manually configured, and we're going to add that as an MSI. And you'll see that it's auto-populated that MSI code for us. And we're going to, if we hit yes, it needs to be, well, we won't do a version check because I can't remember the version number. I think it's 4.0, but we'll leave that at that. This is much the same as what you have in SCCM, where you can have multiple version checks and rules, just only one of each. So we'll click OK to that. And if you're having custom return codes, you can go and plug them in here. Otherwise, you can see the defaults are there. And we'll click OK and add. So now this will upload that file to Intune for us. And you'll see here, once it loads up, it saves, that by default, you don't have the ability to deploy the application straight away, as you need to wait for that application to be uploaded. Because this application is so small, it should be pretty quick. And you'll see here now, you'll see in the Azure notification pane, the upgrade or the uploading of the Microsoft Maths application itself. Obviously, the larger the application you have, the longer it's going to take to go up. So that's now uploaded. Yep.
Where is this file now in relation to your tenant and things like that? Is it accessible on a shared drive in your tenant, or is it just part of this client apps pool of apps that you can't actually get to the content?
So that's actually a really good question. So the content is located on a private blob storage that Microsoft maintains for you. So the limit right now for Win32 application deployment from Intune is 8 gig per Win32 application. So there's no worry about the storage sitting behind it all. It's part of your licensing agreement that they cover that storage, but there's a huge Azure blob storage sitting behind it with additional security around uploading and downloading files from that. So when we go through the automated scripting solution for this, we can explain that a lot deeper.
Okay.
I think today we'll keep it at that tertiary level of there's a blob storage there that you don't have access to and you can't see and you don't know it's there. So now we're going to go to assignments. And as always, in Intune, we need to select a group, and we're going to make it available because we want users to be able to pick Microsoft Math. And we'll make it simple. We're going to make it available to everybody. You now have the ability to show toast notifications only for restarts or hide them all. This is a great feature if you need to make things install on computers without users knowing about them. Not that I'd recommend that, because you should always work with your staff to make sure that they know what's going on their computers. So that's now deployed, and I'm just going to go back across to my computer in this environment and force it to sync the policy down, and hopefully we'll be able to see that policy come straight up in the company portal.
Do they call them toast notifications because they pop up like toast?
I actually don't know the reason, but I do know that toast notifications started out with Windows 8, so there is a good chance it is because it pops out from the left-hand side, like the toaster.
And speaking of toasters, do you remember the flying toaster screensaver?
Yes, I do. Fantastic.
I remember when screensavers were really a thing, you know, like, oh, I gotta get the cool screensaver. It's awesome. Sorry, I'll stop talking. Keep going.
That's okay. you can talk while I change sessions, because I just need to change my share screen. So I still remember when we had all of that stuff as well, Adam. It was pretty cool.
But it also first getting into computers, and you know, it was. I remember we used Solitaire as a way to determine how fast the computer was. My friend went from a 386 to a 486, and I remember winning Solitaire, and the cards would, you know, they would jump out, and on 386 they were just very slow, and then the 486 they just flew off the screen at the end of the game. So good times.
I remember this urban legend. I'm pretty sure it's true, but I remember this urban legend where Microsoft Hearts was actually created so Microsoft could test clustering. because it was the first application that was cluster aware. So what you could do is while you're playing, if you failed to cluster over when it was sitting on the network and they still retained all of their cards, you knew your cluster was working correctly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was one of these quirky ones that you sit there and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah,
I like it.
I don't know how true it is. So we're now on our VM and we've opened up the company portal. So hopefully in here we should see that Microsoft Math application appear. You'll note that I've opted for the dark theme because I like dark everything. So we've selected Microsoft Math and we're going to hit install, and that will download the application and install it onto our computer. Same as what we do with SCCM, and same as what we do with the Win32 the line of business applications or Office or Store for Business applications. It sits in the background, it downloads and processes it in the going through. What you'll also see under the hood for this, because this is actually using where is it? This is using an management extension that gets added to Windows. You'll see that the Microsoft Intune management extension appeared here. That's because it's the first Win32 application or script that's been sent to this computer, and that's basically a cut down client that sits on the computer that tells it you need to install this software. In here you'll see that you'll have files that will appear in here and disappear, but that is where the extension sits. We also, if we then go to services, let's see, and we'll see a Microsoft service here for Intune. There's the Microsoft Intune management extension. So if you're ever trying to force applications to check in or install, you can restart this service and it'll force it to start again and reprocess everything. So you'll see now we're downloading it and it's still pending. It shouldn't take too long because of the size of the application, and it will start appearing in the start menu shortly. So you'll also see the Microsoft Intune management extension in the start menu, even though it doesn't actually do anything, it just opens the company portal.
I like that. You know, there's, we talked about last week a little bit about users need visibility to feel comfortable, more comfortable about the process and everything. And I think it's the same. It's almost like, you know, elevators have the door close button that doesn't actually work. It's just to give you something to do, to feel like you're affecting the process. And I think having a service sitting there, having a folder, you know, having something that you can do something to, I think as IT people, I think it helps, because when you're just sitting and waiting, you just never really know, is it really working? And so you want to help it along. And so I think having the service does that for you.
Oh, definitely.
I know it actually adds some value and does actual things, but still.
Yes. Oh, no, I completely agree. And this is one of those great features where you're sitting here and going, look, let's do action. Let's force it to install. Let's go and do something. And you'll see that it's still downloading there. Let's close that. What you'll also see as well, while this is going through, is we can have a look in the event logs, and we can see where those files are, or what the process is going on there. It'll eventually load up. Still going.
You need to give your VM a little bit more horsepower. Poor thing is struggling today.
Let's have a look at the spec of this VM and see if it needs any.
Yeah, there it is. 100% CPU.
100% CPU. Wow.
I think we're killing it.
The heck is that?
Oma DM client.
So here's a neat trick for anybody that hasn't played around in here that much. You can
I
go in
wish it was
here and
there
select
every
command line
single
and image
by
path,
default.
and it'll show you exactly what the path is for that executable and the command line that it's running. So that gives you the ability to understand what's going on and why it's having issues. So
And I did this the other day with Config Manager. I was doing a task sequence and it was hanging on the app install process, and I was able to not only see what it was running, but then on the command line piece, I was able to get the full command line for it and just run that manually while I was doing troubleshooting to see if I could make it re-kick off and just play around with it. So I love turning those on. I wish they were on by default. I remember when they first showed up, I just was blown away. Oh, I can finally see. I know what's going on.
It's been there since like 2000, right? You just had to know to turn it on.
Yes. Sorry, I should have said. Whenever I figured out that you could add columns, that was when game changer.
Exactly. Oh, I
a
know
little
exactly
bit slow sometimes, happens.
It took me a long while to find it as well, and now it's like one of the first things that I turn on. It's like, I need to know what's going on here. What's going on? Oh, that's what's going on. So we now have Device Management Enterprise Diagnostics, and that gives us all of the information that's going on with Intune. If we have any errors and policies, so we're having issues with health certificate. So obviously I've shut down this VM incorrectly more than once, which isn't surprising. So you'll see the company portal's decided it needed an update. So I'm just opening that back up and seeing where it's at.
And if you've watched the video this long, we will tell you that Steve and I do a fair amount of prep generally on these things, and but you get the content. We're doing our best. So
yep.
This is exactly the way this would behave if you did this in your environment. So
that's right.
We don't want it to be perfect and polished right out of the gate every time. It gives us the opportunity to show you, look, hey, let's go dig, let's go debug, because it's never perfect. It never just works right out of the gate. Though I think we were hoping it would. This is I think we're like 4 for 4 on our demos at this point, Steve. So
I think so.
I don't think we've had a single one. Maybe we need better VM. Well, we've even used different VMs and we're still struggling. I don't know.
Maybe we just need to call it, let's watch Adam and Steve fail to install things.
Yeah, which would be just about watching my day job too. So it's good. I think I'm going to switch back to Config Manager. It was much more reliable than this Intune stuff, man. I don't know.
Definitely. Good odds that I've actually put the wrong command line there. So let's see. No,
so I think this actually leads to a thing that I think we should attempt to do as one of our sessions at some point is do a advanced debugging under the hood kind of things, because even though I'm watching how to do this and we're looking at the different places, I'm still not. It's like I see words on the screen, but I'm really not sure what to do with those.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be that next level of understanding. It's just like, I mean, coming from Config Manager, there's hundreds of logs. Once you start piecing together the process and goes from this log to this log to this log, and understanding where the information is, you can start piecing that puzzle together. But it takes time, and I think it's going to be the same thing with Intune. It's figuring out where those logs are, where you need to look next, and piecing those things together to be able to effectively diagnose. So I think it's part of the journey, part of the process, and it's certainly not something that we can just say, here, this is, do this every time. I think it's going to be, as we encounter a thing, we'll be able to walk through how to troubleshoot.
Definitely, I completely agree, and this will definitely lead into a bigger conversation on how to do troubleshooting and diagnosing issues with Intune and everything around that. So I don't think we're going to be able to get this fixed up in the time that we have left in this session, Adam. But we've gone through the process and the concepts on how to package those applications. We've seen that you go through and run that command line, upload it up into Intune and deploy it or make it available to your staff. From there, it should all just work, but as you can see, I have fat fingers somewhere and it hasn't worked properly.
And I definitely think that, you know, a good point here is, so take your command line that you're going to run with this and test it manually locally before putting it into your package, because you saw what it takes to get it up there. And so if you've got to make some sort of tweak that's not just command line related, you certainly want to do that before you have to run the script to repackage it and upload it, especially if it's got any size to the package at all.
Definitely, and that's probably a very important point to make there, Adam, is look, Intune is very much the same as SCCM. It will do exactly what you tell it to do. So if you send up garbage, it's going to send garbage back out. The only difference is when uploading it up into Intune, it's going to take a lot longer for larger files. So that cycle to test and validate is a lot longer. So this is where you should make sure that it all works correctly before you actually start uploading that file. And that's where you test your install strings and test your everything around that. And you can make it a lot easier for yourself.
Yep. I agree.
So I've just given the VM a restart, Adam, and we'll see if that installs the Microsoft Maths.
So I know that this is probably a more advanced question around the application model in Intune, but is there a mechanism for application dependencies or chaining or even supersedence and things like that, like you would find in Config Manager? Does that exist today?
I believe so. Let me just double check to see what's there today, and we can talk through that. Just bear with me. Too many computers, and we go apps. So I'm just quickly going to have a look through that application, because there are some dependencies where you can make it dependent on Win32 applications by default, but I'm just confirming if they've added any other ones today, because there was talk that they were going to add more, but no, it's still only dependent upon Win32 applications itself. There may well be other solutions coming through in the future, but right now you can only be dependent upon other Win32 applications. So I'll quickly show you that here. And that's important to say, look, you can't be dependent upon the existing line of business applications or anything like that. So when packaging applications, especially for Intune, what I recommend, and this actually leads into how we've gone through this story or this arc around getting the store for business applications connected, and then moving into the Windows Win32 applications, and then to the line of business applications. For me, that's the model that I would be recommending to follow, where we sit there and go, look, if you can deploy it from the store for business, deploy it from the store for business. And the reason why I highly recommend deploying it from the store for business over having a Win32 application packaged is, look, store for business, you don't have to maintain, it just works. Every time there's an update, Microsoft sends out that update, the client goes and picks up that update, and everybody's happy, and you don't have to do any maintenance on that application. So it reduces your overhead, it reduces your admin tasks, and why would you not take that up? Then we move into, sorry, go.
Well, so I was going to say, so I think this leads down that path of this philosophy that you and I have really are attempting to promote and to adopt for ourselves, and it's the idea of reducing the amount of administrative minutia that we end up spending our time in, it doesn't add value in many cases where we're trying to either hold the user's hand through a lot of things that they do outside of work all the time. When they get a new iPhone or a new computer at home, they don't have you sitting there babysitting, logging in for them and doing things.
Exactly.
And the same around the applications. Why not let your applications auto update for most of your applications, unless it's a critical line of business app that you feel like there's a specific hard requirement that this has to always be on this version and we have to test against these things, or this is always problematic. Let it fail first before you start worrying about whether you let it auto update. Let your store for business apps update. We have rolled out in our environment. We've had Power BI from the store for business rolled out for probably around 6 months or so, and we're just letting it auto update, and it works great. Because technically the fallback is, okay, so a couple of users, if they had a problem, you just roll out an MSI version and roll them over to that and say, use this until the next month and when they fix it. But we haven't had to repackage every month and test every month the Power BI package, and it just works. And
that's right.
No one knows that it's happening, and we haven't had to mess with it. Think of all the stuff that you spend your time on trying to manage and protect your users on. You really stop and consider whether that stuff makes sense. I'm not saying that you might not have a valid case, but stop and rethink and make sure that the way you're managing this stuff really matches what makes the most sense for your organization.
That's right, and that's it, right? Like, who wants to spend their time sitting there every 3 to 4 weeks when Adobe brings out the updated version of Adobe Reader, repackaging and sending that up into Intune? Like, I don't know about you, but I got better things to be doing than that sort of stuff. And that's just a small example. You go and look at, all right, we're going to deploy Chrome for the enterprise. It's the MSI. We're sitting there and saying, do not allow auto updates. Does that mean every week you go and do a new version of Chrome to go up into Intune? And that's the model that we're in.
Well, and let's really think about that for a moment. So what are the updates that you're normally getting on most of your applications? Most of them are security related. Some of them include feature enhancements and things.
Yep.
But if Chrome's releasing an update every week, I bet there's at least a couple of security patches in there. Yeah. Why wouldn't you roll that out immediately? You roll out your antivirus immediately. You roll out your Windows updates, as soon as, why wouldn't you treat every other application with the same urgency? If it's security related, stamp that and push it out the door. Don't delay.
Exactly, and that's it. Like AV definitions and things like that, we sit there and we release them without even thinking about it. We just go, yeah, there you go, done. Let's move on. Why do we need to spend any more time on it? So that's where that mindset of you don't need to control everything it's a hard thing to step into, but once you do, your life is going to be so much easier to deal with.
There really is so much freedom in that. I mean, look at, I won't, because we're not trying to promote other companies, but you'll know who I'm talking about. There's a company out there today whose entire business model is patching software updates through Config Manager, or patching third-party applications through Config Manager.
Yep.
There's a whole company devoted to just managing that.
That's right.
Do you have a team? Do you have a team that can do that level of patching on their own and do this without a third-party tool or something? No, most likely not. And so
exactly.
why would you make this difficult on yourselves? Use the tools that are available. Let it break and prove that you should have done it this other way instead of the other way around.
Well, and the other side of it is, and it's going to sound very self-serving, is let it break so you can be seen to be doing things. It sounds really simple, but at the end of the day, how many people in the end-user compute IT pro space sit here and go, I got fired because everything was running perfectly and they didn't need me anymore?
You occasionally need to go and reboot the router just so everybody realizes that you exist.
Yeah. Yep. So on that note, I think Adam will call an end to the session. Unfortunately, we didn't get a successful install, but we've gone through the process on how to install or create a Win32 application. You need to go and download the Intune Content Prep application from GitHub, from the Microsoft repo, and that will allow you to create that Intune Win file. And then from there, you upload that up into the Azure portal and make sure your installation commands are correct, and it will just work for you. So one thing that I didn't put in there is you can also put log files and everything associated to that. So the same as what you would do with config manager, you can put a /log command into your MSI installer, and it will show you that log file for how it failed to install.
Excellent. Well, Stephen, I think this was very informative. I learned some new things here, and I hope other folks have as well. If you are enjoying the content, please let us know, comment on this, and follow us on social media. Reach out to us if you've got questions, and more importantly, let us know what you'd like to see next. We're really enjoying doing this, and we're getting some good feedback. I believe this actually was a content request from one of the comments on a previous video. So please keep them coming. We appreciate it, and definitely. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yes, definitely see you next Tuesday. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter. I'm On-Prem Cloud Guy.
And I'm Adam Gross TX.
Awesome. I'll thank you later, mate.
All right. See ya.
See ya. And